Hey, what's going on? This is Charles with the Chabot Experience radio show. Part of Chabot Experiences, what I love doing is just showing people that you can start a business or you can go to college and reduce debt or you can learn a trade or whatever. But here at Chabot Experiences radio show, we just talk about other people's experience. And I have a cool guest. He's actually family, but I like to refer to him as a businessman now. We both kind of grew up in the North Carolina area. He's traveled internationally. I've traveled internationally, but I know him as E-Man, but his name is Emmanuel Waters, and he is actually a chief executive officer of this new bourbon, which I already have right here. It's pretty good, and it's called Old Hillside Kentucky Bourbon. I like to welcome my cousin, but AKA businessman, Chief Executive Officer Emmanuel Waters to the Chabot Experiences radio show.
Man, that is quite the introduction. It's a absolute pleasure to be here. Yeah, we're actually it's funny, man. We're actually family. Obviously, we're cousins. We literally grew up together. Well, I remember as a kid, we would try to stay at your house like every single weekend because our brothers. I have a brother, you have a brother, about the same age, and so
Yeah.
we had literally, what are we, 20 plus years in to go from literally the cornfields to now.
Yep, cornfields in North Carolina.
Literally North Carolina corn. I mean, literally, our grandparents live in the middle of the cornfields.
Yep.
So to go from that to just where we are now in terms of business and life, it's just a reminder. This is just a blessing, honestly. Just to see how far we've come. It's just a reminder to keep going and keep striving. So glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Oh yeah, and I just give a salute to North Carolina cornfields and Old Hillside. If you guys don't know them, this is a black-owned bourbon company. Please get Old Hillside. It is definitely good. So salute to the North Carolina roots and to my cousin and the business.
Thank you. It's been, we've been, this is going on year 4. So we literally started during the heart of the pandemic. My co-founders, who are all originally from North Carolina, all my co-founders are from Durham. And this is literally the company of what we say founded in friendship. This is friendship. This is heritage. This is legacy of Black Wall Street in Durham, North Carolina. This is, telling the story of African-American jockeys that made the Kentucky Derby famous, all rolled up into a bottle. So the idea was to create a good spirit and then tell stories around that. And so, literally the story is simple. I got a call from my other cousin, Courtney, one day during the pandemic, and he said, "Hey man, we're going to start a bourbon company." And to be completely honest, I'm not a whiskey drinker. Matter of fact, I would say I probably have taken a drink of whiskey, probably 1 or 2 in my life. My parents will go around and call either. Adam could tell, our family
Yeah.
is saved, sanctified, filled the Holy. The alcohol was just not a thing in our
Yep.
family. And so when he called me, I was like, I'm not, I don't even drink it. But when I got on the call that night and talked with my co-founders, Jesse, Brian, and Courtney, and I started researching the story of Black jockeys, that
Mm.
story just resonated with me so much, given the times that we're in. Obviously, that was with George Floyd and everything that was going on with
Yep.
COVID, and just the legacy of really African American stories being diminished within our country. And so it struck a chord with me. And you fast forward now where we started off with like 1 bottle. Now we're hundreds, tens of thousands of bottles in 4 states. Kentucky, North Carolina, California, and then we're expanded to Hawaii, where you are, Adam. And so
Yep.
it's been 4 years and so much growth. So it's been an amazing journey.
Nice, nice. And one thing about me, cousin, that you put me on was the guy named Isaac. What was Isaac
Isaac
Murphy?
Murphy. Isaac Murphy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And I was blown away. We're from the South, North Carolina, UNC, Chapel Hill, Duke, basketball. But
Mhm.
once you put me on game and y'all told the history of Black sports jockey, I didn't know that we had people that looked like us that dominated the sport, that field. So that motivated me to start to learn more and also want to go to some of those horse races. Believe it or not, before I got my job in Hawaii, I was offered a job in Kentucky, and I wanted Kentucky over
Oh, wow.
Hawaii. I played a stock market, so I wanted to go and start learning how to bid and bet on those horse races. But
Wow.
that job didn't come through. But I'm in Hawaii now.
Wow,
Um,
I didn't know that. Yeah, Kentucky
yeah,
it's fun. And so, if you ever get the opportunity to go to Kentucky and you stop in Lexington, which is where Isaac Murphy is from. I mean, he's got a horse race park, his track, and he wasn't, it's interesting because like you said, I didn't even know, to be honest with you. I thought the Kentucky Derby was just something rich people go to and watch. I
Yeah.
had no idea that blacks had dominated the sport for 100. I mean, literally, people know the first 13 to 15 Kentucky Derby riders were black men, were jockeys.
Wow.
And so it was a natural fit because most of them were born enslaved and then tended to the horses in the barns anyway. So, four of the greatest jockeys of all time were black men, and 17 of the first 28 Kentucky Derby winners were black men. And
Wow.
so, I was blown away. I had no idea. And I think, it took, sad to say, it probably took a pandemic for the world to sit still for all of us to even know that. Because my co-founders, Jesse and Brian, they have been going to horse races for years. And, luckily they knew some about it, but to build a company around it probably would never happen had we not sat still. So yeah, it's an interesting history. And it's, I don't think there was a black rider from 1921 to almost 2000 due to Jim Crow, racism, segregation.
Wow.
So we went from a sport, we dominated the sport, to then we pretty much were pushed out of sport due to racism, right? So typical American history.
Yeah. And also too, because one thing that I kind of liked about y'all story is that from my understanding, y'all were going to the races, but y'all really didn't see a lot of black vendors out there. So that's what inspired y'all to create this bourbon company. Can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, yeah.
Just what influenced y'all to go into business in that specific space?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So Jesse and Brian, Jesse had lived in Lexington for 15 years, and then him and Brian connected over a weekend at a horse race and were touring distilleries. And so they had the idea of when COVID, well, it's actually, I call it a blessing in disguise because when the pandemic happened and all the horse races were canceled, Jesse literally had a dream in the middle of the night and was like, I'm starting a bourbon company. Let's literally
Wow.
happen. He called Brian, his middle school friend, and at like 6 o'clock in the morning, made a call. Brian calls Courtney, Courtney calls me. So that was kind of like chronologically, kind of the timeline of events. But it really was, when at the horse race, it was like, why are there no black people? And so every year we go to a race down in Lexington called Keeneland, which is the prep for the Kentucky Derby. So a month before the Kentucky Derby, they're all races, all the big time races happening there in Lexington. So you ever get an opportunity to go, Keeneland is absolutely amazing. And so when we're down there, like you said, it was like, why aren't there no African Americans? Like, what's going on? And like I said, we just did that research and realized, like, wow, like, so let's try to shed a light on it, And there's so
Nice.
much, and people don't think it's not just the males. There's also females too. We have some female jockeys that were, jockeys back in the day that not too many people know about. So it's another thing of again, we're so much of our history, African American history, is just buried, right? And so we just want to shine a light on it, and then encourage, on the flip side, also encourage other people that start their own business, entrepreneurs, wherever the case may be, that you can do it, right? And I think that's what I inspire to be. Is I hope to be an inspiration, that you can do it. We've all pretty much worked in corporate America 15 plus years, and
Yeah.
during
All of us.
yeah, no.
We've all worked these jobs and were made promises.
Wait promises. And then tomorrow was interesting. Is like they said, you work hard for a job, but if you died at your desk before your body was in the ground cold, they'd have your job up on Indeed or they'd have your
Yeah.
job sit, right? So for me personally, what really hit home for me is one day I was at a company during the pandemic, and the money was flowing in. We were making the COVID tests, and bonuses were, I mean, the money was just getting out of control, what we were bringing in. And one day my boss told me, it's like, they gave us our bonuses, and it was literally like, I think like 3%. The company must have generated something close to 5 billion during the pandemic. And she said, "Oh, we decided to give you guys back this to show you're investing in employees." And I thought, wow, I'm tired of making other people money. Why don't I go make some money for myself?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so that's kind of been, that was my motivation right there. It's not a journey for the weak. But if you have something that's truly, I would say, for lack of a better word, ordained, it will succeed. You just have to keep at it every day.
And that's a good point you brought up, Cuzzo, because my goal of Chabot Experiences is to show people if we can do it, you can do it. And let me ask you this. What were some of the challenges of starting a business? I know with me, I can honestly say now, I'm a registered LLC, I'm paying taxes, everything's legit. It wasn't, I can't say it was fear. If anything, it was just procrastination. But what I'm learning is once you start something, it
Mm.
all comes to play. Like
Mm.
everybody, you'll meet the right people, you'll meet whoever. But a lot of times, I think for me, it was procrastination. It wasn't fear, because every day on social media, we can see how somebody took a passion, something that they love, and made it a business.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, man, I said there's challenge every day. I call this literally, I mean, just being an entrepreneur, I've considered a roller coaster or a jungle gym. It's not linear. It's some days it's this, some days it's down, some days it's crossways, sideways, obstacles could be anything from, for us, it was raising money to buying bourbon to getting licensed. Then once you get a license, you think you're good in one state, you got to get another license for another state, and it just never, or your price is too high, or somebody's complaining that they didn't like the drink. I mean, it's never ending. But like you said, if you're truly starting something and it's ordained that things will line up. I mean, for us personally, I mean, if you knew just the amount of doors that we just happened to be there at the right
Not
time. So I'll give you one example. North Carolina, for those that don't know, when it comes to alcohol, is what do they call the control state? Meaning the state controls all the liquor. That's why all the liquor's in like ABC boards versus,
ABC.
yeah, exactly. Whereas like California, I go to my local Target or, Total Wine or something. But North Carolina is like the hardest state. And I remember early on when we started, we weren't even 6 months in. We were on a call with a person that we believe was going to mentor us and help us out. And he was on the call. And to keep in mind, we are a North Carolina brand. Hillside High School
Yep,
is North Carolina. Like that, we are home.
exactly.
This is
That's what I'm supporting you all the way. I'm from North Carolina. I'm in Hawaii, and I got my bottle here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We're the hometown. And he got on the call with us and pretty much said, "Why would you go to North Carolina?" And this is his exact words: "Well, North Carolina will kill your brand, kill it."
Wow.
What he said. And we were so deflated off that call. And we're like, man, we're not gonna let his bad, words speak. We know what we're supposed
Wow.
to do. And we couldn't find a broker, which is what you need to get into the state. My co-founder Jesse just happened to be in the house one day. His then wife at the time happened to have a coworker. The coworker just happened to have a brother that was a broker and said, "Oh, I think my brother does something with bourbon." Just happened to be there at that right exact time that he mentioned it. Boom, boom, boom. We got a broker. Fast forward, we do a bottle signing. We break a record in the state, sell 400
Yep.
bottles in less than 47 minutes. That record still holds till today. Not one brand has come close to what we have done in the state. So again, if you're, like you said, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, things will just line up. And you can't let, yeah, I like to say, when a door closes, God will open a window, so you just have to keep
Yeah.
going, keep climbing, and keep. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to keep striving. You can't give up. You have to just keep trying. If it's truly your passion, right? Then just keep going for it.
Yeah. And it'll definitely happen. Um, yeah, man. And again, I don't want to put your business out here, but I just have to ask you a question in this part of the radio show. With you going to college and getting all your degrees, I think bachelor's and master's for you, I stopped at associates and bachelor's.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to young people coming up this summer based off all of the years of experience? Because what I'm finding out, and this is just me, I'm almost 40 now. Everybody in my age group, 40, 35, everybody's saying if we would have known what we know now, we probably would have jumped into the business side first. Then as we get making income and get that business, go back to college later, or might not even have went. What is your personal take? Me, if I knew what I knew now, I think college would have been in my later years, not in my 20s for me.
Yeah, man, that's a tough question. And it's hard to say because hindsight is always 2020, right?
Yeah,
But so also keep in mind our generation, and we're about the same age. Our parents were a little bit different. It was just go to college. They didn't know why they had, I mean, and they had taught that from our grandparents, right? Go to school,
yeah,
get education. Once you get education, back in the day it was the white man can't take it away from you once you have it, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think for me, if I'd have known what I know now, I probably still would have went to school. But I definitely would have went to a state school. That's number one. Never would have went to a private school. Definitely never would have, racked up so much student loan debt and all that. So it's tough. It's hard to say. I don't know if I would change anything, but I would tell you this: once you start making money, it's real hard to stop and then go back to school. So it's
yeah.
But I would tell you,
Yeah.
some of the, book knowledge is great, right? I think, your bachelor's degree is important, master's degree is important. It just depends on the time and really the season that you're in, right? So for me, when I went back in to go get my master's, right, it was just like, okay, well, my job was going to pay for it. And it was like, okay, well, at the time, if you stay in school, you stay on my dad's military benefits. So I just went it. I didn't really appreciate a lot of stuff that I learned until now that I'm entrepreneur, right? So
Bro, bro, I would say the same thing. Like so much stuff that I'm learning now outside of a classroom has
Mhm.
been, I don't want to say more beneficial, but it's been more efficient for the direction that I'm
Absolutely.
going in now. So I know with this being a summer, and that's what I kind of specialize in. I just like to use this radio show sometimes to encourage the next generation, man, because there was no TikTok and YouTube came out a little bit later when I was in college, but the information is here in
Yeah.
today's world for whatever a person wants to accomplish is here. And that's why I'm so happy, even though you're a fam, I'm just happy that you came on the show and we're sharing what you've done. And I like the key on another point, family and friends, whenever somebody's starting something, support them. My cousin here, he invited me uh, when they had what was that party in California?
Oh yeah, we had our launch party
Yeah,
back in
a
20.
launch party.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I came. I was like, man, I refuse. If a family member's nearby, I'm going to those events and trying to support them. So I had a real good time. A lot of people really enjoyed the bourbon, and again, I learned a lot. I know you guys sell cigars as well,
Yeah.
partnered with that package, but uh, you guys are doing it big, man, and I just so
Thank
happy that you share some time with me. We're gonna take a little quick radio break, and then we're gonna find out how and where you can purchase this Old Hillside bourbon.
This music segment is brought to you by Chadwick Experiences, and I'm your host, Charles Chadwick, here on WDRB Media. Tune in every week during the same time. Listen live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio app, Streamer, Apple Music, or at WDRBmedia.com and click on the Listen Live logo. We are WDRB Media, the voice of the community. Hi, this is Charles Chadwick, host of Chadwick's Experiences. Be sure to follow me at Instagram and Facebook at Reduce College Debt and stay up to date on our live broadcast. We are WDRB Media, the voice of the community. Hi, this is Charles Chadwick, host of Chadwick's Experiences radio show. By being on air, I'm able to share my life stories and experiences. As I have traveled all around the world, I have one main purpose, and that's to give a little something back to the next generation for a little motivation. Because in today's world, in order to reach their goals and find success, we all need some determination. Thank you, WDRB Media.
We're back from the break of the Chadwick Experience radio show. We are interviewing Emmanuel Waters, Chief Executive Officer of Old Hillside Bourbon Company. We've covered a lot of things, man, but one thing that I have to cover is what are some of the challenges of when somebody's working a full-time job
you.
and they're trying to start their own business? Because even me, I'm a contractor and it was tough. There's times because where I live in Hawaii, it's a 6 hour difference from Eastern time. So I
Yeah,
work nights. So when I get off work, sometimes I'm getting right back up to do an interview. And I get it.
yeah,
Sometimes a person, you may say, I'm tired, but guess what? Somebody else is tired and somebody could work even longer than you, but you got to stay hungry out here. So
yeah.
what's been some of the challenges or advice you would give somebody who's working a full-time job and they're trying to slowly transition into a business entrepreneurship that
Yeah.
they like?
That's a good question. So one thing I've noticed is that entrepreneurship is not a one size fits all. So how you come into whether you started your company or how you came into this race is going to be completely different for me. Now I know some people will say, hey, if you're, you gotta, quit your job immediately and jump on the business and be doing it full time. And that may be true, right? It just depends on kind of where you're at. I can tell you for me, when we started, nobody was doing it full time. And when I saw where we could go, I saw the roadmap. I said, we're not going to have a choice. We're
Yeah.
gonna have to. Somebody's going to have to go full time because it's just what it's going to need. Now, for me, I mean, I got a wife. I got two little kids at the time. I think I had my first child, and she was going to daycare. And so for me, I mean, I was in tech. I could not just. It would not have beneficial for me to quit, my full time tech job and do this. But once the business got to a certain point in sales, I said, man, I think now will be a good time to transition. Even then, I still was like, no, I don't really. It's easy, to do something when you're getting when you're getting the check for a guaranteed payment first and the 15th is what I like to say, right?
Wow.
So for me, I didn't, but you know what happened? I literally journal, and early in that year, I wrote down, I said, man, I really want to do the business full time. I didn't know how that was going to happen. And then I've been in my company for 6 years. And like I said, I had made all that money during COVID. And then when they started, COVID had shifted away. Then it was time to come around. What happened? They did layoffs. Another reason why corporate America is so greedy, because the minute that there are signs of trouble, this company had made something close to $7 billion in the pandemic, and then the first sign of trouble, instead of 7 billion, maybe they made 2 to 3. Now they're going to have layoffs. It goes to show you that corporate America could care less about it. Couldn't care about you at all. So I took the package and I said, all right, I'm gonna do the business full time, and that's what I've been doing, and it's literally been 13 months now, and I can tell you it is not for the weak. There are times, I'm not on salary yet. So there are times that I'm like, dear God, when a check comes in, how do you balance what I may need for a bill to pay versus what the company may needs, right? And so I haven't had to navigate that journey of making sure the business keeps going, gets their bills paid, but also I keep my sanity,
Yeah.
But all that to say is again, everybody's journey is different, right? And what you're going to find is, depending on what type of business you run, I can tell you this from the investors that we've talked to in probably the 18 months I've been on this investment road, is investors love to see that you've taken the quote unquote risk and you're on the business full time. To my knowledge, that's all I've seen, right? But I also had to say to them, okay, well, now that I'm full time, then you need to make me whole because I still have a family to feed, right? So you kind of have
Yeah.
to find that balance. But you got to know what's also, know what works best for you, right? For me, I had such a flexible job that allowed me to devote a lot of my time to the business. And so when I traveled, I was on the business, I was on calls, et cetera, et cetera. But if you get to a point where, you feel as though this job is taken away from your creativity to devote that energy into your business, then maybe you need to have a different conversation. And also, I think as minorities in general, we tend to not understand the concept of risk. We're very, from what I've seen, and I'm not going to generalize, but I can just speak for our family, Adam. Like as Black Southerners in the South, our parents are very non-risk averse for rightfully so reasons, because of how they grew up. Right? It was
Yeah.
down south. It was, you go get a state job, a government job, you keep that job, you stay on that
And you
job for 10 years,
retire.
you retire, and you get a pension, and you're done, and you don't rock the boat. Right? But
Yeah.
that lifestyle, I think, is done, and you're not going to build generational wealth doing that.
Mm.
And so now you have our generation that's like entrepreneurship and let's work from our own. And really it's big risk, high reward, right? And so for me,
Yeah.
ask yourself, what are the risks and what are the reward? Like for me, it was just, okay, what's the worst that can happen? The company fails. I would hate for that to happen, but you know what? If it does, I have a master's and a bachelor's to fall back on. I'll just go back to corporate America. Corporate America isn't going anywhere. And that's the way I looked at it.
Yeah, and I think that's how people should look at it. And I totally agree with you, man. One of the challenges I face is when I'm at my regular job, when I'm on my lunch break, I personally put on headphones. I'm not listening to music, but I like that quiet time to work on stuff. And he's like, "You're not eating," and I kind of get it. Like you said, it is no choice when you're trying to leave corporate America and make it on your own. You don't have a choice. You got to put in the time and work. But one thing I'll say, everybody has time. But the excuse could be is they say they don't have time. I'm learning everybody has time. You
Yeah.
just got to be willing to discipline and put the sacrifice into it. But man, this is definitely such a good conversation. Unfortunately, my radio show is only 30 minutes long, so I may have to come back and do a part 2 with you, Cuzzo. But one thing that I did want to make sure, again, Old Hillside Bourbon, where can people find this bourbon? Where can they purchase it? And if they're outside of the United States, can they get it? Can you just explain where's the most spots to get Old
So
Hillside
if
Bourbon?
we ship to all 49 out of 50 states with the exception of Utah. So if you are not in your local California, Kentucky, North Carolina, or soon to be Hawaii, you can go to our website, oldhillsidebourboncompany.com, and go to our shop. You can find bottles there, and you can find actually retail stores within those states that you can purchase. But definitely oldhillsidebourboncompany.com, Facebook, social media, all that other stuff. But next time you go to the website, take the time and check out our story and our history, which really gives up. I mean, there's so much detail in every single jockey and everything that we do, just on how we built the brand. So I encourage people to go there. And then, drop us a line, man, and, shoot us an email. Hey, I like to think of it, Adam, is we have a right, I should say we have a responsibility to give back to those who are behind us. So anybody, any entrepreneur, any aspiring entrepreneur, anybody that just needs, I got a right to try to help you best I can, and so happy to help because someone helped us, so many people opened doors. And especially, within this industry, particularly like alcohol, you want a lot of us in there, and those that are in here, some of us, we feel like we're competition, but I'm like, guys, this is a $20 billion industry. There's enough pie for everybody. And so my goal is to help people as much as, somebody helped me. And that's what we should be doing. We should all be encouraging each other and lift each other up. How many times have I called you about stocks, man? You send me some stocks, I'll grab them. And sometimes I don't even look at it. You just send them to me. I said, okay, if Adam says it's good, I'm gonna.
Yeah. And that's the same way, man. You really inspired me. And I know all this happened during the pandemic. I'm just mind blown as far as what transpired in me during the pandemic as well. I felt like that was a interesting time period for people to really do a deep dive and call some self-reflection and get closer to your purpose in life. So I definitely salute you for that. And again, I just want to make it clear as day, please support my cousin and their bourbon company. And you can find them at oldhillside.com. There's so much more I want to ask, but maybe again, it might be a part 2. But this will conclude the Chatwood Experience.
We'll do it in Hawaii. Face to face.
Tell them about the next event that's coming up. You're going to be.
Good point. Thank you. Yeah. So those that are on the island, we'll be there July 15th through the 19th, was Monday through Friday. We're going to do an event that Friday night, I believe, downtown in Waikiki. I'll get the address and we'll put it on our social media. But that night we'll be doing bourbon tasting. We're going to do cigars. We're just going to be coming out, celebrate the community. And really, it's just going to be a good time to say thank you, mahalo to the island of Hawaii for having us. And really, we're all about friendship and cracking a bottle and having good times. That's what we're about. It's about camaraderie, right? And so if you're there on the island, please, by all means, stop in and come see us. We look forward to tasting something.
Gotcha, man. Well, again, this will conclude the Chatwood Experience radio show. And again, all I'm trying to do with Chatwood Experiences is just bring experience for the next generation to let them know, hey, the traditional ways of life, you don't have to follow every single footstep. There is no A, B, and C, and D. You just trust and believe in your heart and be whoever you want to really be in this life. This concludes the Chatwood Experience radio show. And this was just episode 2 with Emmanuel Waters, Chief Executive Officer of Old Hillside Bourbon Company.